The salty breeze from the Atlantic whipped through the open windows of the white limousine as it crawled along the coastal road of seaside Newport, Rhode Island. Inside, Emily Harper sat perfectly still, her hands folded over the silk of her wedding gown, the kind of dress that cost more than most people made in a year. 28 years old, successful marketing executive, orphaned young but fiercely independent. She had everything planned. Today she would marry Jason Miller, brilliant lawyer, son of one of the oldest families in town, the man who had swept into her life with charm and promises and a smile that made her forget every doubt. The car slowed in front of the historic seaside mansion the Millers had rented for the occasion. Hundreds of guests milled on the manicured lawn, champagne flutes catching the late morning sun. Emily took a breath, ready to step into the future she had dreamed of for 2 years. Then the screaming started. One of the groomsmen burst from the crowd, face white, phone still clutched in his hand. "Jason, he's dead. Car accident on the way here. The world tilted." Emily stumbled out of the limo, veil catching the wind like a sail on a sinking ship. Jason's mother, Evelyn Miller, collapsed into her husband's arms, shrieking accusations before Emily even reached them. You did this. You brought this curse on my son." Security tried to hold back the chaos, but the damage was instant. Whispers spread like wildfire. Emily Harper, the Black Widow before she even said, "I do." By nightfall, the Millers had taken everything: her dowry money, her savings, even the deed to the small beach cottage her parents had left her, claiming it was the least she could do to atone. She became their live-in caretaker, nurse to aging parents who despised her, punching bag for Jason's younger sister Amy, who treated her like hired help that didn't deserve pay. Emily worked 3 jobs, paid their medical bills, buried her own dreams, and somewhere along the way buried the child she lost to stress and grief. 10 years crawled by in quiet suffocation. Then came the diagnosis: stage 4 cancer. Too late for treatment. On the day she finally collapsed, bleeding from the mouth in a filthy hospital corridor, she saw him, Jason Miller, alive, arm around his old flame Lisa Tran, both of them laughing as they left an OB/GYN appointment. Lisa was pregnant. Emily dragged herself toward them, legs failing. Jason turned, recognition flickering, then disgust. "Emily, look, I never wanted to marry someone I didn't love. Faking my death was the only way out. You chose to give us the money. You chose to take care of my family. Nobody forced you." He shielded Lisa and walked away. Emily spat blood onto the linoleum, vision tunneling to black. Rage and regret swallowed her whole. When the darkness lifted, light poured through lace curtains. The smell of ocean air filled her lungs. She was back in the limo. Same wedding day, same dress, same heartbeat thundering in her ears. But this time, memory burned behind her eyes: every betrayal, every humiliation, every second of a decade stolen. This time, she knew exactly what Jason and his family had planned the moment the limo stopped the staged accident call: the public shaming, the slow bleed of her life into theirs. Emily's fingers tightened on the bouquet until thorns drew blood. She stared at her reflection in the tinted window pale, determined, no longer the trusting woman who had died alone. Something unexplainable had given her a second chance, a reset she didn't understand and didn't need to. She wasn't going to waste it. The limo rolled to a stop in front of the mansion. Guests turned expectantly. Emily drew a slow breath, tasting salt and freedom. Then she pushed the door open herself and stepped out. Not as a bride walking toward her future, but as a woman walking away from her past. The crowd hushed the moment Emily appeared alone. No father to give her away, no smile on her face. Cameras flashed. Evelyn Miller stood at the top of the stone steps, elegant in navy silk, eyes narrowing with confusion that quickly hardened into fury. "Where's Jason?" Emily asked loudly enough for the front rows to hear. Her voice didn't shake. A ripple of unease passed through the guests. "Mr. Miller hurried forward, face flushed. "He'll be here any second." Dear, just a little delay. Emily smiled without warmth. No, he won't, because this wedding is off. Gasps erupted. Evelyn clutched her pearls. What are you talking about? You begged for this marriage. Did I? Emily stepped closer, heels clicking on marble. Or did you beg for my money while knowing your son never wanted me? The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Amy Miller shoved through the crowd, designer dress clinging to her perfect figure, eyes blazing. You're embarrassing us. Get inside now. Emily turned to her slowly. Embarrassing you? That's rich coming from the family about to stage a fake death to trap me for life. The words landed like a slap. Amy recoiled. You're insane. From the edge of the lawn. A tall figure emerged. Ryan Carter, childhood friend turned quiet admirer. The one person who had seen through the Millers years ago. He had been invited only out of courtesy. Everyone knew the Millers disliked him for warning Emily once. Long ago. His dark eyes locked on hers now, steady, questioning. Emily didn't hesitate. She walked straight to him, guests parting like the Red Sea. Ryan, she said clearly, marry me, today, right now. Ryan froze, shock giving way to something fierce and protective. Emily, are you sure I've never been more sure of anything? Behind her, Evelyn shrieked. This is absurd security, but no one moved. Phones were out, recording everything. Amy lunged forward and grabbed Emily's arm hard enough to bruise. You don't get to humiliate my brother like this. Emily wrenched free and delivered a sharp, open-handed slap across Amy's cheek. The crack echoed. Amy stumbled back, hand to face, stunned silent. That, Emily said coldly, is for 10 years of treating me like dirt in a life you'll never understand. She turned to the crowd. Jason Miller is about to fake his own death to escape this marriage and leave me holding the bag for his family's debts and his pregnant girlfriend. I'm not playing along this time. A woman near the front whispered. Girlfriend. Another voice Lisa Tran. And then, right on cue, a man burst from the mansion doors. Jason's best friend, pale and sweating. Jason, he's been in an accident. They just called, it's bad. The timing was perfect. Too perfect. Evelyn collapsed into theatrical sobs. Mr. Miller pointed a trembling finger at Emily. See what you've done. You've killed him with stress. The crowd surged with accusation. Black Widow. Poor Jason. Ryan stepped in front of Emily, arms wide. Everybody calm down. This is convenient timing, don't you think? But the tide had turned. Guests backed away from Emily as if she carried plague. Evelyn wailed louder. Amy smirked through fake tears. Emily felt the old trap closing again, the same suffocating weight. Except this time, she was ready. She looked straight at Evelyn and said, loud enough for every phone to catch it, take me to him. Take me to my dead fiancé. I want to see the body myself. Ryan's eyes widened. He understood something was very wrong. Evelyn hesitated, then nodded triumphantly. Yes. Come kneel and beg his forgiveness. Emily smiled, small and dangerous. Lead the way. She took Ryan's hand and followed the Millers into the mansion. The angry crowd trailing behind like a funeral procession in reverse. The game had just begun. The heavy oak doors of the Miller mansion swung shut behind the mob, trapping the heat of rage and suspicion inside. The grand foyer, decked in white roses and crimson ribbons for a wedding that would never happen, now felt like a funeral parlor. At the center lay Jason Miller on a makeshift bier, sheet pulled to his chin, face pale under strategically applied makeup, chest unmoving. Evelyn stood guard like a sentinel, arms crossed, tears drying into triumphant streaks. Mr. Miller hovered beside her, while Amy dabbed at her reddened cheek and shot Emily venomous glares. Lisa Tran lingered near the back, eyes wide, clutching a tissue as though she genuinely mourned. The crowd pressed forward, murmuring prayers and accusations in equal measure. Ryan stayed glued to Emily's side, his hand tight around hers, grounding her as the room threatened to swallow her whole again. Evelyn broke the silence first. "Kneel, Emily, kneel and beg my son's forgiveness for what you've done." Her voice cracked with practiced grief. "Look at him. Look at what your cruelty did." Phones rose like periscopes, recording every second. Emily didn't move. She stared at the body, remembering the cold hospital floor, the blood in her mouth, Jason's dismissive shrug as he walked away with Lisa. 10 years of servitude flashed behind her eyes. Then she smiled small, calm, lethal. "I will," she said softly. "I'll pay my respects." She stepped forward, the crowd parting reluctantly. Evelyn's eyes gleamed with victory. Emily sank to her knees, the silk of her gown pooling like spilled cream. Ryan tensed beside her, sensing the shift. For a heartbeat. Everything hung still. Then Emily lunged not toward the floor, but toward a heavy silver candelabra on the side table. She seized it, yanked the flaming candle free, and hurled it straight onto Jason's chest. Flames erupted across the white sheet. A collective scream tore through the room. Jason bolted upright, shrieking, batting at the fire as it licked his shirt. "Help! She's trying to kill me." He ripped the burning fabric away, revealing perfectly healthy skin beneath theatrical pallor. The sheet caught fully now, smoke billowing. Guests stumbled back in panic, some collapsing, others frozen in horror. Jason staggered off the platform, coughing, eyes wild with terror and fury. "Emily, you crazy bitch, are you insane?" The room exploded. "He's alive! They faked it, the whole family liars!" Evelyn lunged at Emily, claws out. "You could have killed him." Emily sidestepped easily, voice cutting through the chaos like ice. "Killed him? He's been alive the whole time, planning to trap me as your unpaid nurse while he runs off with his pregnant mistress?" She pointed at Lisa, who went ghostly white. Jason tried to speak, voice hoarse from smoke. She attacked me. I was in shock, but the crowd wasn't listening. Phones captured everything Jason alive, the staged beer, the Millers' stunned faces. Someone shouted, "Call the police." Ryan pulled Emily back gently. "We should go." But Emily shook her head. She stepped forward again, facing Jason directly for the first time. "You know what the worst part is?" she said. "Loud enough for everyone. I really loved you. I would have died for you. And you let them destroy me for money." Jason's mouth opened, closed. For a split second, something almost like guilt flickered across his face. He had always been good at faking emotion, but it vanished under self-preservation. "You're hysterical," he snapped. "This is assault." Emily laughed, sharp and bitter. "Assault. Try fraud. Try conspiracy. Try 10 years of my life you plan to steal." She turned to the crowd. "I brought him back to life today. Consider us even. From this moment forward, Jason Miller and I are nothing to each other." She took Ryan's hand and walked out, head high, while behind her the Millers screamed denials into a storm of condemnation. Outside, the ocean air hit her like freedom. But as they reached the gravel drive, doubt crept in for the first time. She had burned the bridge spectacularly. Was she becoming the monster she hated? Ryan squeezed her hand. "You okay?" She nodded. But the question lingered. Weeks blurred into a quiet new rhythm. Emily and Ryan married in a simple courthouse ceremony. Just a handful of friends who had seen the viral videos and chosen her side. The footage of Jason leaping from his own coffin had spread across local news and social media like wildfire. Fake death groom trended for days. Sponsors dropped Jason's law firm. Clients fled. The Millers' social standing crumbled overnight. Evelyn and her husband retreated into their mansion, doors barred against reporters. Amy's engagement to a prominent banker imploded. No one wanted Miller blood in the family tree. Lisa vanished from public view, rumors swirling about an abortion no one could confirm. Emily watched it all from the cozy apartment she now shared with Ryan, a place filled with sunlight and his quiet steadiness. He cooked breakfast every morning, left notes on the mirror, held her when nightmares of the past life clawed her awake. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, She felt safe. But safety wasn't enough. Not yet. Jason came to her door one rainy afternoon when Ryan was at work. He looked thinner, eyes bloodshot, suit rumpled. Emily, he started, voice rough. Can we talk? She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Talk. He glanced around nervously, as if expecting cameras. You've destroyed everything. My career, my family. Do you know what you've done? I know exactly what I've done, she replied. The same thing you did to me, only faster. Jason ran a hand through his hair. Look, I was wrong. I panicked. Lisa was pregnant. My parents were drowning in debt. And you had money, security. Faking my death seemed like the cleanest way out. He stepped closer, voice dropping. I have pancreatic cancer. Emily. Stage 2. I found out 6 months ago. I didn't want to die trapped in a marriage I didn't want, leaving Lisa alone with a kid. The confession hit like a punch. Emily searched his face for the lie and found none, only desperation. For a moment, the old empathy stirred. The woman who had once loved him whispered that he was scared. Human. You should have told me, she said quietly. I would have helped you anyway. Jason's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. Would you, or would you have run? She didn't answer, because she wasn't sure. He took her silence as invitation. Come forward. Tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. We can still fix this. Emily studied him, the man who had killed her with indifference. Pity and rage warred inside her chest. Then she thought of the hospital corridor, the blood, the loneliness. No, she said, you made your choice. Live with it. She closed the door in his face. That night she sat on the balcony, wine untouched, staring at the dark ocean. Ryan found her there hours later. You're thinking about forgiving him, he said gently. It wasn't a question. I'm thinking about whether I'm becoming him, she admitted. Cold, calculating. Ryan sat beside her, took her hand. You exposed a lie that would have destroyed you. That's not cold. That's survival. But survival had a price. She began pulling strings, quietly whispers to Lisa through a mutual acquaintance, planting doubt about Jason's commitment now that he was ruined. A forged text here, a carefully timed rumor there. Lisa, terrified of raising a child alone in scandal, made her choice. Amy received an anonymous message suggesting her parents planned to marry her off to pay Jason's mounting medical bills. Panicked, she fled with a charming loser who promised escape. Jason's world unraveled thread by thread, each one tied by Emily's invisible hand. When news came that Lisa had terminated the pregnancy and Amy had vanished, Jason spiraled. He showed up drunk at Emily's door again, begging, threatening, pleading. She watched him crumble and felt nothing but hollow victory. Ryan held her that night as she cried not for Jason, but for the part of herself she had buried to win. Revenge tasted like ash. And still, it wasn't over. Months passed in a fragile peace that Emily kept waiting to shatter. The viral scandal had faded from headlines, but the scars remained etched into Newport's social fabric. Jason's law license hung by a thread pending investigation for fraud. His parents rarely left the mansion, whispers of foreclosure circling like vultures. Amy's disappearance with a known con man made tabloid fodder for weeks before the world moved on. Lisa resurfaced briefly, spotted boarding a bus out of state with a single suitcase, her face hidden under oversized sunglasses. Emily built a new life brick by brick. She launched a small nonprofit from her home office Second Chances Foundation, offering legal and financial aid to women trapped in manipulative relationships or fraudulent marriages. Donations trickled in at first, then poured after a local news feature painted her as the heroine who exposed a family's deceit. Speaking engagements followed women's shelters, university panels, even a TEDx stage where she spoke calmly about recognizing red flags and reclaiming power without ever mentioning rebirth. Ryan watched her transform with quiet pride and growing concern. The woman he married was fierce, brilliant, unbreakable on the outside, But at night, she sometimes woke gasping from dreams of hospital corridors and blood on tile. One evening after a fundraiser, they sat on their balcony overlooking the harbor, city lights dancing on the water. Emily stared at her laptop screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. "I got a letter today," she said finally. "From prison. Jason." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. She continued. "He says he's dying faster now. Treatment's too expensive without insurance, and no firm will touch him. He wants forgiveness. Says he understands why I did what I did." Ryan set his beer down carefully. "And what did you do, Em?" "Exactly." The question hung heavy. She had never told him everything, not the anonymous tips that pushed Lisa to the clinic, not the forged messages that sent Amy running, not the whispered rumors that drove Jason to crash Lisa's attempted fresh start in another town. She met Ryan's eyes. "I survived," she said. "But sometimes I wonder if survival and revenge are the same thing anymore." He pulled her close. "You're not them. You help people now. That's the difference." But the doubt had taken root. The next week, Emily made a mistake that nearly cost her everything. A young woman named Sarah came to the foundation engaged to a wealthy older man whose family was pressuring her into signing away rights to her inheritance. The story echoed Emily's own too closely. Desperate to protect her, Emily dug deeper than she should have, leaking compromising photos of the fiancé's affairs to a gossip site anonymously. The wedding imploded spectacularly, but Sarah's fiancé turned out to have powerful connections. He sued for defamation, naming the foundation. Reporters camped outside their apartment. Donors hesitated. For the first time since her rebirth, Emily felt cornered by her own actions. Ryan found her in the office at 3 a.m., surrounded by legal documents. "We can fight this," he said. "But you have to decide who you want to be when it's over." She withdrew the anonymous tip through back channels, paid a quiet settlement to make the lawsuit vanish, and publicly apologized for overstepping in my zeal to protect a client. The scandal damaged her reputation temporarily, but something shifted inside her. She implemented stricter protocols at the foundation, no more anonymous warfare, only legal, transparent advocacy. The work became purer, harder, but cleaner. Jason's letters kept coming, increasingly desperate. He described prison life, the constant pain, the regret that ate at him worse than the cancer. He wrote about his childhood, Evelyn's relentless pressure to succeed, his father's alcoholism hidden behind closed doors, the terror of being seen as weak. "I thought faking strength meant never showing fear," he wrote in one. "You showed me what real strength looks like. Too late for me, but maybe not for someone else reading this." Emily read them all, then burned them in the sink. Forgiveness wasn't hers to give, not fully, but understanding crept in uninvited. When news came that Jason had been approved for compassionate release due to his terminal prognosis, Emily felt the old trap springing shut. He was coming home to die, and Newport would watch to see what the Black Widow would do. Emily stood at the prison gates on a gray December morning, collar turned up against the wind, whipping off the water. Jason emerged, supported by a guard, skeletal in an ill-fitting coat, oxygen tank rolling beside him. His eyes found hers across the parking lot, surprise giving way to something raw and unguarded. The guard handed him over to a hospice transport, but Jason waved them off for a moment. He approached slowly, each step labored. "You came," he rasped. "I didn't think you would." Emily kept her expression neutral. "I needed to see this through. All of it." He nodded, understanding. "I'm sorry, Emily, for everything. The fake death, the lies, letting my family use you. I was a coward hiding behind bigger cowards." His voice cracked. "I see it now. Every day in there, I saw it." She studied his face, the man who had destroyed her once, now destroyed by his own choices in time. "Do you know what the worst part was?" she asked quietly. "It wasn't the money or the years stolen. It was realizing I let you make me small, that I chose to stay small to keep people who never loved me. Jason's eyes filled with tears that spilled over without shame. I wish I could give those years back. You can't, she said. But you can stop taking from the world in the time you have left. She reached into her coat and pulled out an envelope thick with documents. This is contact information for a journalist doing a series on medical debt and fraud in the legal system. Your story, your real story, could help change things. Or you can die quietly with your secrets. Your choice. Jason took the envelope with shaking hands. Why help me at all? Emily looked toward the ocean, visible just beyond the prison walls. Because someone gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. Maybe karma isn't about balancing scales. Maybe it's about what we do when we finally see clearly. She turned to leave, then paused. Goodbye. Jason. He called after her, voice breaking. Emily, thank you. She didn't look back. Ryan waited in the car, engine running. As they drove away, he asked, was it closure? She considered the question, watching the prison shrink in the rearview mirror. It was choice, she said finally. Mine. 3 months later, Jason's interview aired a raw, unflinching account of privilege, fear, and the cost of deception. He died a week after filming, peacefully according to the hospice nurse. The piece sparked investigations into several high-profile fraud cases and brought record donations to Emily's foundation. She and Ryan moved to a house on the cliffs outside town, far enough for privacy, but close enough to continue her work. On clear nights, they walked the beach with their daughter born healthy and fierce, with Ryan's dark eyes and Emily's determined chin. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the water, a letter arrived forwarded from the foundation, Lisa's handwriting on the envelope. Emily opened it with steady hands. Inside was a simple note. I forgave myself today. I hope you can too. The scar faded more than I expected. Life goes on. Emily read it twice, then folded it neatly and slipped it into the fire pit they used on cool nights. As the paper curled and blackened, Ryan came up behind her, arms around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. Everything okay? She leaned back into him, feeling the solid warmth of the life she had chosen, not given, not stolen, but built. Everything's perfect, she said, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, she believed it completely. The ocean rolled in, endless and forgiving, carrying away the last ashes of what had been. Emily watched them disappear and felt nothing but the salt wind on her face and the promise of tomorrow and her daughter's laughter echoing from the house. Some stories end in vengeance. Others end in morning light. Hers ended here, on a cliff's edge, with love that had waited patiently through hell and finally claimed its due.